However, despite this increase, urban employment of women remains close to 30% and not optimistic 40% that I think the majority of the audience thought. Generally what happens, we know only people who are similar to us, and if our friends work, based on that, and we think, majority else are also working. But measured employment and women employment, whatever is measured, there is underestimation bias, because a lot of women, if they are home based, if they are doing some earning, they don't record in a survey, they don't say I'm working. Okay, so there is definitely underestimation bias, but nonetheless it is only close to 30%. In urban India, however, there are better quality jobs and people or women earn more than in rural India. So even though lesser work, they are essentially many more. Half of them are in regular salary employment. So that's definitely much better. Within the different age groups, around 38% in their 40s. So you can see, you can relate easily as the children grow up and so on, more women can join workforce. So women who are in their 40s essentially have a higher employment rate than the rest of the age groups, even though in every age group we have seen the increase in participation of women. But if only 30% are right now employed, and which is an improvement, that nonetheless means large number of women remain outside the workforce. Okay? And if we try to put a number, because generally people like to remember it in terms of absolute numbers, how much that comes to, it is essentially around 89 million only in urban India, the women who are not in workforce. So if we compare to other countries, in India we are seeing 30%, in the rest of the world, even in developing countries, 60%, 70% women work. Okay. So if you see, that means essentially the entire population of France, UK, Germany, or 3 times Australia. We are talking only about women and women only in urban India, right? And if we see out of these, how many are highly educated, that is at least graduates and above, there are 19 million women in urban India who are graduates and above are not currently in employment. Okay, so there is a lot of untapped potential, of course for women itself for their empowerment, but also for the economy. So if I see from the macro angle, in general the numbers are put out in various reports, like if all these women work, how much GDP will increase and so on and so forth. So there is a lot of untapped potential to it. However, and positive thing is, the proportion of women working can significantly go further, because in education we see now there is gender parity. Even if you see, in fact this proportion is slightly higher only for women who are in age group, but you can see even in early 20s, men and women, 30% of them are still in higher education. So there is almost complete, on an average, gender parity in urban India as far as education levels go. Second positive thing, positive from the labor market perspective, is women are getting married, women and that means men also, are getting married later. So if you see in 1990, 2000, around 60% of, 61-62% of women in the age group of 20 to 24 were married. That proportion is significantly down now to less than 40%. Marriage nonetheless remains universal in India. You can see in 30s almost the entire, nearly everyone is married. But nonetheless, if the marriage is delayed and the education is rising, single women have much more opportunity to participate in the labor market and have wholesome jobs before they start their families. Okay, which is of course is going to be a big positive. So these are positive sides, progress side, and of course Mr. Suresh will speak a lot about, I suppose, IT and how at the starting level the employment of women is 40% plus. And Mr. Mahalingam spoke about women at the higher leadership level and how much progress. He said he hasn't seen our report, but our report exactly starts with that. That is the political leadership, presidents, prime ministers, finance ministers, a lot of state chief ministers, all of them have been women, but how that has not translated into at the lower levels in terms of empowerment. However, we also asked you a question about the unemployment rates and who you think between men and women have the higher unemployment rates among young adults. So here you go. Majority of us thought it is women unemployment rates which are higher. In reality, men unemployment rates are higher in 20s. So what that jobs for both women and men, right? But you are partly right. If you had considered in your mind only about highly educated workforce, then it reverses, that is women unemployment is higher than the men unemployment. So it's okay, you are right also partly and you are wrong. Okay, so it depends on whether we look at the overall picture or we look at only higher. But whichever graph we look at, in early 20s, unemployment rates are high, right? And that means we need simply much more quality jobs. And you know, a lot of corporates are here, and we know very well, and there are some results in the report where we show that essentially, unless the quality job creation increases massively, it will be very difficult for women employment to increase significantly. Okay? And why that is the case? Because if you see, even though the men unemployment is higher in 20s, virtually every man is in employment when it comes to the, by late 20s, one has to get married, and that means one has to have some earning because there is a still made breadwinner norm that men have to work, and that means finally whatever job is available, men take. That means men employment becomes nearly 100% if you see, right? So because this, now we say there are norms for women, there are strong norms for men as well, right? So if we have to accept that, and since that is the case, women's job really cannot come at the expense of men, right? We have to have jobs for both. So that means in 20s, in this early 20s, for highly educated workforce, we really need much more jobs if we have to avoid essentially diversity backlash. So you see, this is a survey which we had done some time back within Great Lakes, highly educated workforce, right? That is MBA postgraduates. You clearly see these may be perceptions. It may not always be reality, right? We are not saying corporates always do this. But even if perception is there that women are favored because of, percentage of women, percentage need to go up, then that's not nice. And what Dean Suresh spoke about the diversity backlash, elsewhere, maybe that's coming here. Maybe it's coming after 5 years, maybe it's coming after 8 years. But it's coming unless the overall number of jobs go up. Okay, so that is one thing. So there is a lot more in the report about this which you can read different results. But this will remain very true. It is not like women against men. It has to be women and men and jobs for everyone. And if that does not happen, that is, if overall number of jobs don't go up, and that means if women employment proportions don't go up, and if we compare to China and India, we know we have a lot of demographic dividend, right? We have talked about it for several years now, I think a couple of decades. Now there is a talk about how India will age in another 20 years, right? So for many years we are talking. So if you see this blue line, dotted blue line, that is the proportion of number of working age population in India. Other line is number of working age population in China. So clearly China is aging, right? All of us know that. But now if you see how many people actually work in the sense are in paid work. A lot of people work. Women also work at home, men also work at home. But that is unpaid. When I say work, I'm just saying right now employment in paid work. If you use the same labor force participation rate or employment rate currently, China will continue to have lot more people employed for foreseeable future, right? And that means we saying we have demographic dividend, essentially our demographic dividend, they are not utilizing at all because they are not in employment. Okay, so even if China is aging and their average age of workforce is increasing, nonetheless, simply by number of hands, China will have lot more people in work. And this is only related to women because all the men work in China, all means virtually all, and virtually all the men work in India as well. Okay, so this gap essentially comes only because of lower employment among women. Okay, so this we must keep in mind. I think there's a question about, this is our primary survey or the research we did recently about among highly educated couples, and there was one question about that. Equal career priority, this is very heartening. Majority of the couples say that there is equal career priority, but when the priority is for one, then of course the male career takes priority, and only 5% of families' female career is priority. That is what they answer, not really unexpected. because these are young couples, there is a small child at home, so essentially mother takes the primary responsibility. But when they say 65% say that have equal career priority, then you were right. I think majority answer take around 20% of women in couples, women earn more. That was very close. In 70% women earn wives earn more. And it comes to perception about if there is equal merit, whether career progressions are different, right? 65% of women believe career progression is different, even when the merit is same. Only 38% of men believe that career progression is different when the merit. So we'll get into the reasons, because if I explain it will just take too long, so we'll just tell you the numbers right now. When there is a panel discussion next, we will discuss about this lot more, but clearly the perceptions differ quite a bit. When I'm saying motherhood penalty, in the sense we are comparing between rural and urban. So, in urban area, around 44% of single women work. That is before they get married, right? After marriage, there is a significant drop. Among all married young women, only 33% work. And with the arrival of a child, only around 20% work. In rural India, this doesn't happen. There is no drop between married and a mother with a child, because baby work is much more flexible. Farm work, then carrying a baby as well. In urban India, jobs will be essentially regular salaried jobs are like full time, right? Means now of course work from home has come, but in general before that. So that means of course there are a lot of policy. One policy which haven't explored enough in India is whether we have of course 6-month maternity leave and all that, but we have and the corporates have to provide, I think, child care at the premises. But one thing we haven't explored as in Western countries, child care in the school itself, after school hours. Right? Because the child doesn't have to be transported elsewhere and so on and so forth. So anyway, we can discuss that later, but there is a significant drop. We did another study on remote work. That is, when women are working from home, what are their perceptions about stress level, productivity, those kind of questions. So around 1 in 2 women report higher productivity while working from home, and their stress level are essentially low. However, around half of them, 46%, essentially worry about the longer work hours. So here the work would mean office work, as well as those who work from home with when you're at home, essentially is dual job, right? So housework, and so overall number of hours just increase. Multitasking becomes too much. When you are at home, it is like at office is different. You can finish that and come home and do, but here you're all the time doing multitasking. So definitely half of the women worry about that. And there is also perception. I'm saying perception because I don't know whether this is reality. Okay, so the right word to use is perception. Around 40% of mothers believe that they do not have equal chance of promotion despite doing all the work and despite being productive if they are working from home. So these are some of the things maybe corporates can look at, how you overcome these perceptions when you allow women or anyone, women, men, to work from home, what we can do about it. Some unspoken barriers, not unspoken, relatively less explored or hidden barriers is single women are working in much higher proportion, right? But in India, large majority of women move even in urban areas after marriage. And that means even if you are having a job before marriage, essentially it becomes very difficult to hold on to jobs, and you have to search again. The whole process has to start again. So this is one unspoken barriers. Women migration for employment is only 3%. Right? That also suggests there are some barriers in terms of maybe how single women can come to cities and stay in a safe environment. And I know, for example, Tamil Nadu state government is doing a lot of work in terms of working women's hostel and making them safe and clean and up to date. Such kind of policies will be really required. Urban sport, if the cities just grow whichever way it grow, then the commuting becomes longer. So these are the issues which women struggle with when they try to work. One of our findings I want to little bit talk about here, which is counterintuitive to what we may think, is women who are employed face higher domestic burdens. We normally would not think that, because women who work have earning power, they have definitely more bargaining power in the terms of decision making at home, they definitely have more mobility, all that is positive. But 22% of women who are employed, they themselves justify violence against them compared to women who are not in paid work. And we believe this comes from the fact that essentially women are thrust upon them from very young age, face of ideal mother or a wife, and if I'm not able to fulfill that, that image which I'm portrayed, I blame myself, essentially, that I'm not able to do that, and essentially then I try to compensate it by saying that. So this really we have to discuss and figure out, how we can get women out of this. So for example, we never heard, this I'm sure a lot of men are supermen, but we never heard Superman awards. But we have awards for like superwomen, right? I'm not sure we should have those awards. Women don't, because then it's excessive pressure, essentially. Anyway, but education definitely helps. If you're more educated, you can overturn, you face much less violence at home compared to if you're lower educated. Okay, something that we need to have much more dialogue in policy circles and in society as we go ahead. So to sum up, and we'll talk about more of this in the panel discussion, that lot of job creation is required, quality job creation, men are equal stakeholders, and if situation has to change, we must have government, corporates, and society working together. So thank you very much.
I strongly believe that this report is not just about identifying barriers, but also about offering actionable solutions. Key takeaways from this report will be instrumental in understanding how we can enhance gender diversity, improve recruitment policies, create flexible work environments, and most importantly, challenge the cultural and societal norms that limit women's potential. I urge everyone here to engage the findings and consider how they can be applied in your own organizations to drive meaningful change. I am sure the panel will discuss in detail many of these issues. A lot of metrics were brought about by Dr. Vidya. I think she talked about the 30%, 89 million, 19 million, all I think it's very important to understand. And she mentioned about a lot of job creation. Many of the forums, in fact, we discussed with the government also, it's all about creating more jobs. And automatically, a lot of these things will get solved. In TCS also, when we talk about how we are going to do in the future, most important thing is look at growth. And we say growth is the secret of our energy. When things grow, automatically everything will happen. So I think that is what we need to look at, how to make everything prosperous for us, ourselves, our organizations, and the country as well. Who said change happens naturally? Progress is not automatic, it is intention. Here I would like to say a few things. Normally in these forums I talk about 4 I's. I for intent. Whether there is an intent with the organization to do the right things. Right? Intent by the government to do the right things. Intent by the individual also to do the right things. Very important actually. All these 3 forces are being played. Whether intent in terms of recruitment, in terms of providing the learning and growing environment in the organizations, the type of infrastructure and environment, whether it be, I think during COVID, a lot of online courses came into being, right? And what is the investment we need to make? The time, efforts. When we say investment, it is also by the individual to learn and grow. It's also by the organizations to invest their time and efforts for the upliftment of the organization, and also by the government. And all 3 things are happening today. So things are much more possible than what it was earlier. And the 4th I is about integration. I think very important to ensure the disparities are not there and how they are integrated, how women are integrated in the organization. And this year's International Women's Day theme is Accelerate Action. It reminds us while women have made remarkable strides, many challenges persist. The reality is, despite decades of efforts, women still face barriers that slow down the growth in the workplace. accelerate action. If that is a theme, let action be an acronym. A, advocate for equity. C, cultivate inclusive leadership. T, transform workplace policies. I, invest in women's career growth. And O, open doors for representation. And N, normalize work-life integration. I'm not calling it balance. Our chairman of Tata Group talks about work-life integration. And with the mobile world, internet world, it's no longer that people are working from office only or working from home. They're also attending to personal things from office as well. So it's a mix, right? So work-life has not integrated, whether we like it or not. The technology has made it happen that way, and we also enjoy it actually. Right? It has given us flexibility. So I think very important to understand, and I feel from a tech industry perspective, we have been fortunate because technology has enabled us. We learn a lot from the manufacturing industry early decades, but it's now also time for the manufacturing and other industries to look at what they can pick up on these policies and how things happen in the tech industry. Not that tech industry is perfect. Definitely there are always opportunities to improve. Similarly, the professional service industry, whether it's legal or the chartered finance area, etc. I think these professions have shown a lot more for the women to have right career path. So end of the day, it's all about tripartite way of making things happen. From the individual perspective, the company perspective, as well as the government. In TCS, we follow a 5-pillar strategy to diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think end of the day, it's all about equity, right? More than diversity, inclusion. As long as things are equalized, things will happen. We believe in representation, ensuring all segments are represented. We believe in enablement. There are systems for equitable workplace. We believe in engagement, connecting and creating network for diverse communities, and creating a culture, creating workplace environment where employees can interact with each other. And here I'd like to just take a pause here in terms of, when we talk about culture, the interaction with each other is very, very key. They used to have challenges in many industries, including our industry, where people wanted to work from home, but it doesn't help them in the long run. They need to interact with their colleagues in the office. It helps them solve the problems faster. It helps them learn new things from each other. And so many things, right? And they also want to change. Sitting at home, working 9 hours continuously, I think is a way. It's not a good. So we believe strongly, of course there could be a balance. There are people in TCS, I can quote that there are people, women who work for a very long time from home, pre-COVID. I'm not talking about post-COVID or during COVID. When there are genuine reasons, the supervisor and the HR teams decide what's best for the individual. So it is case by case and also the type of role, etc. And the other thing is about development, building the right skills. I think women need to build the right skills. Especially, I would like to request all of you to think when sudden career break happens and people want to step in, there needs a lot of introspection on what you want to do and what they can learn. And here organizations also have to step in, which is what companies like us do. How to ensure they have some learning opportunities before they come back and join us. Because technologies are changing today every day. And talk about advocate for equity. There are organizations who are committing to diversity, equity, inclusion. More women are reaching leadership positions today. We are creating systems which provide equitable workplace related to policies and infrastructure. But the persistent challenge is the gender pay gap still exists, and women are underrepresented in top decision-making roles. Pay gaps don't close on their own, Equity should be the foundation of hiring, promotions, and compensation structures. That is advocated for equity, right? And cultivate inclusive leadership. I think last one, we talked about non-conscious bias. All of you talked about. We talk about inclusive leadership progress in terms of more companies are focusing on this, building diverse leadership teams. And it is happening, but is it enough is always a question. But the persistent challenge is women still hold only 10% of CEO positions globally, and unconscious biases impact career progression. I think Mani and Dr. Vidya talked about how things are happening at President, PM, and CM levels, but it's not transparent. Companies like us, we ensure that we build right capability through leadership and role model connects, coaching, and mentoring across all levels, whether it's junior, middle, or senior levels. And it's not just about having women at the table, but ensuring that voices influence decisions that shapes future. We have a lot of success stories at TCS. Some of them are gone into TCS board, one of them, and another person has also stepped in as a chief operating officer in another Tata Group company. Not only within TCS, we are also moving across Tata Group companies. Transform workplace policies. I think we talked about. While flexible work policies and parental leave are becoming more and more common, the persistent challenge is women are more likely to experience career stagnation after maternity breaks, and many industries still penalize caregiving responsibilities. At TCS, we have two things. I think many of the IT industry, tech industry is doing this, and many of the other companies also followed suit. We have something called Rebegin for women to come back after taking a long break as well. And similarly, we have Ethos, an initiative to enable, engage, and develop employees on the maternity continuum extending to the parenting journey. Parenthood, caregiving, or career breaks should not be the barriers to growth. The right policies create pathways, not dead ends. So here I would like to have some anecdotes. For example, when people come back to work, they ask for a lighter role. I mean, that's the wrong thing, and they think some role is better than what they were doing before. They say, can I go into HR? As if HR doesn't have a role, right? And in fact, after they go to that particular HR area, then they realize they have to work harder than ever. So people people think that the earlier role was tough and the other roles are thick. Similarly, some people said, no, can I do CSR? And when I do CSR, they have to go and meet the communities, the hot sun. They have to travel everywhere. And when they do that after 3 months, they come back to us and say, was my earlier project was better? I was able to sit in an application office. So please, I think all of you please ensure that don't ask for a lighter role, because then you are actually coming down. You are belittling yourself. Never ever do that. You are competing and you want equity. So I think next about women career growth. Women are increasingly entering STEM, right? Finance as well as leadership roles. But the persistent challenge is women still receive less venture capital funding than men, and fewer women get assigned to high impact projects. Companies like us, we have leadership development programs for junior, we call it IS2, we have middle level, IXL, senior levels, all to propel the journey towards personal and professional excellence. High impact roles and leadership opportunities should be assigned based on potential and not on past patterns. And opening doors of representation is key. There is growing representation in boardrooms and executive rooms, definitely it's improved, but it's a long way to go still. Over the past decade, women's representation has increased at every level of corporate management. Most notably, women today make up 29% of C-suite positions, compared with 17% in 2015. But progress has been much slower earlier in the pipeline, at the entry and manager levels. Persistent challenge. The McKinsey and others talk about the broken run phenomenon, means fewer women are promoted to first level leadership, limiting that pipeline to higher level positions. I think as an organization, we have seen at least 68% representation increasing at the leadership levels, middle and junior, and as well as senior. Talk about workplace integration. The progress has been made in mental health and well-being conversations are more visible today. The persistent challenge is women continue to handle a disproportionate share of unpaid domestic labor, leading to burnout and career drop-offs. And that's where we need to have a culture that supports balance and supports progress. On a lighter note, I'd like to say, all of you are aware of today's word, LLM and SLM. I thought I will coin something called WL. So all of you guessed it, right? Women's language model. And it's much more complex, much more comprehensive, and adaptive, intuitive, always evolving. And AI processes fast, but women process data faster. In fact, the retrieval of the data is very high. 20 years back, the husband would have had a fight. Women would remember everything. The men will be caught in a mess. Right? So I'm talking about the potential. AI may predict patterns, but women create patterns. I was also thinking, like a note again, can NVIDIA Blackwell RTX 50 series process faster than women? I don't think so, probably, right? And women multitask more than a parallel processor and perform tasks faster than NVIDIA chip. I think Wi-Fi, all of you are connecting. Every time you connect to a network, remember that the women's invention made it possible. The first computer programmer was Ada Lovelace, all of you know. The first bug was invented by women as well. So I think, end of the day, we are on the right track. But we need to, individuals need to invest, corporates need to invest, government needs to invest. The future looks bright and shining. It's up to us, men and women, to power the progress and shape the future of women. And women need to support women in career growth as well. So most of the people I think today we have a conversation where many of the women who have succeeded had a lot of men mentors. We probably need more women mentors. Right? I think tech industry has taken some lead, but it's a long way to go. But AI will help probably further, and we need to use AI for that. And the future is with us. And proud to be part of Tata Group, and which had less space of super successful women like Lady Mirabai Tata, who made the Child Marriage Restraint Act possible in India in early 1900, and Lady Navaji Bai Tata, who was the first woman director on the board of Tata Sons. So I think this seminar is a call to action. It's a platform to exchange ideas, share solutions, and commit to creating workplaces that are inclusive and equitable. Let us ensure a future where every woman can lead, innovate, and thrive without limitations. I look forward to discussions and insights that will emerge from today's seminar. Let's continue this journey of powering progress and shaping a future where everyone, regardless of gender, can thrive. Thank you once again for this opportunity to be part of this important conversation.